Hey everybody, welcome back. This week I wanted to take a moment to share with you a blog that I happened to read about last week online. Um, it has a lot to do with technology, which I talked about a couple weeks ago, and it also talks about, one of the um, themes that I'm talking about right now is talking to your kids and listening to your kids and how to increase that communication. And this um, blog that came from waituntil8th.org, and 8th is the number 8, TH. Um, it's about middle school misfortunes, and it's written by a teacher talking about the differences from 10 years ago, 2008, to today. And, 2008, 10 years ago, does not sound that long ago. However, it really put into perspective what our kids are going through today. It talks about two students and the perspectives of each of those students. And what's interesting to me is this morning, I was here in my office. My son comes to school with me, and I was getting ready to do this. And I'm trying to figure out how to do some things on YouTube to make it easier for everybody. And he happened to say, "Well, how many followers do you have? How many likes do you have?" That's not the goal of this, but it was interesting that that was his first thought was, how many likes? How many followers? You don't have very many. And personally, I don't care if I have followers or likes or how many times the um, videos have been viewed. My thought is if one person gets information from these videos, then I've reached my goal. And if it's more than one person, that's great. Um, but in this blog, which I am going to share with you, hopefully somewhere in this video, they're taking out like the little links that go around. They're taking those out, so it might be at the end of the video. But I don't want to give it away because I do want you to read the whole article. It's not very long, but people may perceive that one of the students, Marcus, let's just say that social media comes into play and Marcus does some things that people perceive as bullying. Um, Automatically, what Marcus did is bullying. But I ask you to please read through the whole blog and this teacher's perspective, because if you think a few weeks back when we talked about bullying, think about those three things. Is there power or control? Is there, is anybody being hurt, discriminated against? That was not Marcus's intention. What Marcus's intent was not even thinking that he was hurting the other student, but to get likes and how many likes. And, when we talk about, a few weeks ago, I talked about anxiety and I talked about the impact that technology, social media, our electronics, especially our cell phones that we keep with us 24/7, the impact that that has on everyone's emotional state, between depression and anxiety. Those are huge, huge factors that I still don't think people realize what's going on. And when I think back to 2008, and we all had kids, all our kids are in middle school. They were born from 2007 on, so we all at least had kids at that point. Uh, and what was going on in 2008, what's going on currently, are two very different things. Society has changed a lot over 10 years. And I like the perspective that it took from the student's perspective and not an adult looking in. And it really made me think of my own technology use as a parent. Coming into work, oh, let me just check my email so I can be prepared for work. Let me just do this. Let me just do that. And it's kind of, we all have to go back and do it. We all have to, we get lax in our own rules in our houses. So it's made me think of how I, at my house, need to also curb my own technology use, which is a little difficult teaching online classes. But setting aside those times and really having technology-free times as a family as a whole. Um, in the middle school, I know a lot of parents are, I hate to use the word upset, but concerned that the kids aren't allowed to carry their cell phones around with them. If you read through this blog, it explains why, as middle schoolers, we don't want the kids walking around with their cell phones from two different perspectives. Um, Remember that frontal lobe? The kids don't have the wherewithal, they don't have the inhibition to not pull out their phones and check how many likes, who's commented, how many followers do I have? Because they really do watch those numbers go up and down. And obviously, we are more than somebody clicking like, because let's face it, there's probably a gazillion things I don't click like to, not because I don't like it, because I don't see it. And it's passed on by. It talks about telling stories from times before technology. One of the things the kids always laugh about is my mother always said she'd have to surgically remove the phone from my ear, and I say that I was at least tethered to the wall. And the kids always like to hear me talk about how, like, the super long extension cords we used to get for our phones, so that if the phone was in the kitchen and we wanted to talk to our friends privately, we would spend all this money to get these super long extension cords to go through the house so I could talk in my bedroom. Playing out in the woods. I used to walk a mile to and from school, and my mother writing a blanket note after April vacation. Debbie can walk home any day she wants to as long as she has a friend. And sometimes we would go to the store and get our candy on Fridays and then walk home together. So it was a very different time that, kids like to hear that time and then spending time together. So I do hope that you take a few minutes to read the blog. I definitely ask you to share it with your children. If you don't feel it's appropriate or that your children read it, maybe have a conversation with them about the two sides of the two students in this. I also ask you to think about your own technology use in your house. One of the recommendations I always have to a lot of staff is, setting up some structure and some parameters about work time and home time. I think everybody needs to do that, not just educators, but doctors need to do that. Nurses need to do that. We can't be working in this 24/7 world, because that's going to increase our own stress, our own anxiety, and we're not taking care of ourselves. So, okay, I'm not going to be checking my email after 5 o'clock is one of the suggestions I make, and I try to stick to as well, that I don't do work emails after 5 o'clock. Another piece that I did teaching online classes, so that way the students know where I'm at, is I have certain days at certain times that I'll be working on those courses. Does there have to be a little flexibility here and there? I want to say yes, but watch it, because once you kind of go over your boundary, over your structure, then you give yourself permission to do it again and again. So really stick to the structure. When you say, okay, no more electronics after 7 p.m., you really got to stick to that as a family, and what that's going to look like and what's going to work for your family. So, sit around and tell some stories from when you were younger. And yes, we're going to get the eye rolls because they're pre-adolescent, but they do enjoy it. They do have fun. Talking in the evening with the lights out, because that takes away kind of the visual perception. Sometimes when kids tell us things that are worrisome and bothersome to them, and we realize that sometimes we can't hide our nonverbals, but sometimes talking in low light or in the dark can really help kids open up, because they don't see your nonverbal expressions as clearly, and don't misperceive those. So, definitely take a look at that blog. As I said, it was written by a teacher and his experiences from 2008 to present. But after reading it a couple of times, I really have to agree with it. So hopefully at the end of this video, I will have the link. Again, in case not, I'm going to post it below this vlog on the newsletter. But in case you want to see the website, it is www.waituntil8th.org. And 8th is the number 8 with a TH. And the article is Middle School Misfortunes Then and Now, One Teacher's Take. So I hope everybody has had a great week, and I will see you all next week. Thank you. Bye.